Okay, I have 5 o'clock. Let's call this meeting of the Maple Elementary School Building Committee to order. You should have all received a copy of the minutes and agenda. Thank you very much, Shannon.
You are welcome.
Any comments, questions, corrections to the minutes?
I see a spelling error. My bad.
This would be the meeting of September 24th. Other than Shannon's spelling error, I think the message was accurate. So I have a motion to accept the minutes of 9/24.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any?
Who was the second?
Dave. Dave M. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Alan. Open.
The bid results. You have a copy with our Collier's project leader letterhead.
I don't know if Jeff got one.
We just sent her a package.
Okay.
Thank you.
Project went out to bid. We had 3 general contractors that were pre-qualified to bid on the project. Fontaine Brothers, who did the original high school for you folks. Brait Builders Corporation and Whiting Turner Contracting of Springfield. There were also 81 filed subcontractors that were pre-qualified for the project on 16 different separate trades. And if you remember our budget with the MSBA, the construction budget portion of this was $90,122,000. And we also were requesting 4 add alternates for the project. And we had prioritized those as add alternate number 1 being the new maintenance building. Add alternate number 2 was the terrazzo floor in designated areas within the school. Add alternate number 3 was the site entrance roundabout. And add alternate 4 was a running track at the athletic field. The estimated cost for the 4 add alternates not carried in the $90 million construction budget was estimated at roughly $5.5 million for those 4 items. Only 2 of the pre-qualified general contractors submitted bids. Whiting Turner, for some reason, did not submit a bid. It may have been they're bidding something else or they got too busy, but we did get 2. And Fontaine Brothers, their base was the winning bid on that, apparent low bid on that. Their base bid was $81,137,000, and Brait Builders base bid was $81,900,000. So very close in the bidding, only off by $750,000 roughly. So on that order of magnitude, very close. Fontaine Brothers also put together the add alternate bids. Their add alternate bids totaled $3,694,000, where Brait Builders add alternates totaled $4,037,000. So Fontaine, with their base bid and all 4 add alternates, came in at $84,857,000, which is $5,265,000 under our approved construction budget.
So does all the credit go to Fontaine or to the estimators?
It goes to the entire team. I mean,
It goes to us.
It goes to us.
We have
That's
great
great
architects that have some good drawings, not too many requests for information on those, so all good documents. Managing the process with Tim and our office with getting pre-qualification and the committee here. So everybody's involved in this. This is a team effort. So congratulations to everybody.
As a layperson sitting around the table, the good news for me is obviously that it looks like we get the base plus all 4, but when I see the bids that close, it kind of tells me that everybody's looking at the same thing. I mean, if one bid came in at 81 for a base and one came in at 102, I'd say what's wrong with this picture because they're so far apart. But being $750,000 on an $84 million project is a rounding error.
Yeah.
So they're looking at the same project. They're bidding on the same items. It looks good to me. So good. That's a good feeling to know that they're that close.
I will tell you another scenario. Right now at Bristol County Agricultural High School, we have a construction manager at risk on that, which is totally different than having a general contractor and a hard bid. The project right now isn't fully bought out by the construction manager, and we're the construction value of that was approximately $84 million. We're $1.5 million high on that right now. So it's, you know, kudos to everybody here that we brought this in, you know, well under budget. A totally different scenario, but great for Easthampton. Any questions on? It's a lot of information, but
Now, is this something I should attach to the minutes?
sure.
Okay.
Where were we initially on those? That's the one thing I'm curious about. Where were we initially on the ads? I know we kept throwing around $1 million for each. So I'm assuming the terrazzo floor and the track came in a little lower than expected.
Well, I have one of the estimators, VJ, they had said the site entrance was going to be 2.3 million roughly, and we came in $1.4 million.
Yeah.
And they thought that the new maintenance building was going to be $1,366,000, and it came in at $1,163,000. The terrazzo they had at just under $800,000, and what are we at? $500,000, and the track was going to be $987,000, and we're at $623,000. So, you know, they don't like to err on the low side; they like to err on the high side.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just VJ. So if you take those together with Fogarty, who was the other estimator, and you combine them and divide by 2, I'm sure it was somewhere a little bit less than that.
I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I was wondering about the status of the subcontractor bid protest.
We had one subcontractor, a mason, who had not been pre-qualified, but went ahead and bid the project, and I'm not sure how he was able to get it into Bid Docs Online, which is an electronic bidding source. But he did, and then he filed a protest that the advertisement in combis was not clear on what it was specifically calling out. We ran that down with Deb Anderson, who's the Assistant Attorney General for the state, and she came back and notified their attorney that said everything looked like it was the way it should be. And that was 2 weeks ago, and we haven't heard anything since.
Oh.
So you don't know if they're gonna rear their ugly head again at some point in time. But
Right.
right now, it doesn't look like they're pursuing it.
But I'm assuming that doesn't prevent us from awarding the bid
No,
and moving
I mean,
forward.
I would say that, you know, we're just moving forward with our project with what we know, and that we're on budget. If they want to come back and throw an injunction on it, they could do that, I guess, but we don't sense that's going to happen.
Deal.
And then my other question was just to clarify, because I think it changed over time. Bid alternate number 4, which is the track, it is just the track? The tennis courts and the grandstand fell away?
Correct.
Okay, that was my memory, but I wasn't sure.
So it's just the track that's around the field.
Yeah.
The only things that are separate from the track that are included is javelin and discus throw up on the upper field. But that's just a real estate issue. We didn't have enough space for it at the field, so.
Now, we submitted the report to the MSBA. MSBA will take back their portion of the savings right off the bat, so they're going to deduct that off of that, but we still have our portion, and they knew that we had the alternates in there, and that became part of the basis for the maximum grant. So it all works out that they will take back from the base bid price off the $90 million, they'll take that difference of their portion at 63% roughly, and they'll take back from the $5.5 million on the ad alternates minus Fontaine's of $3.6 million, they'll take their 63% back of that difference. So they will immediately take that back, but that leaves us still with the project budget, under budget. We also have a construction contingency of roughly $2.25 million and an owner's contingency of roughly $1.3 million.
Yeah.
So
Alan, I'm not sure I followed you there. You're referring to the roughly $5 million
savings.
that were under budget.
Yes. I
I guess I just assumed that money's just not going to be spent.
Well, 37% of that money is the district's money. 63% of that money is MSBA's grant.
Right, but does that mean that we can just go out and find $5 million worth of stuff to do?
No.
No.
So what does it mean that 37%?
So your grant is gonna be reduced by roughly $3 million.
Yeah,
The $2 million that would have been your contribution to that $5 million, you can choose to keep it in the project budget, or you can reduce the project budget and
not
don't
bond
do
for,
that.
not
not
bond for.
that.
Well, you don't have to bond for it, but keeping it in the budget is good. It's a way to just to hedge your bets that, you know,
Yeah, I don't mind keeping it in a contingency.
there are things that you need to do per the MSBA. You need to get legal counsel to put it in writing on the district's letterhead that there's no local ordinances or other restrictions preventing you from doing that. But typically, that's what we'll do when we have this situation. We keep the money in the project, and again, I know there's furniture and other things that we'll talk about and that have been on your mind for,
Right.
you've earmarked some of this already.
Well, yeah, I don't mind keeping it in the contingencies, if you will, because I knew we were short on either FF&E or technology. We were short there. So this may obviously help to bolster that, but I just want to make sure for the taxpayer sitting at home that we're not just, someone says, oh, great, you're going to have to borrow $5 million less. That may or may not be true at the end of the project.
Correct.
Okay.
So the 5 million in the funding agreement, they take 63% of that.
Roughly, yeah. in
Which
rough-
is around 3 million. Yeah.
If I understood what you said too, is that they also take back 63% of the ad alternates that they're not putting towards that.
That's inclusive of
That's
the
inclusive of the
five.
$5
If you
million,
take the
okay.
bid savings with the ad alternates and the base bid savings, it's roughly 5 million. So they're going to take 63% of what their portion of both
So
those.
that means the funding agreement reduces from the 90 whatever
Yes.
to around 87.
Yes, Fontaine will be putting together a schedule of values that'll be going into the MSBA, then they'll be writing a final project scope and budget agreement with you against the real number.
Yeah, it's not as straightforward. I mean, it's 5 million, they're gonna take their share of that, but you're rolling in now at alternates into your base contract. So your budget is only gonna be reduced by that 5 million, or you can keep it in contingency and, you know, keep your portion. But the net to the city may adjust because of what's eligible and ineligible. Alternates are ineligible for reimbursement. So the net dollars may shift slightly. So it's not as
Quite that
straightforward.
clean, yeah.
Yeah, it's like doing your taxes. It's
Yeah.
a little bit of-
And I know the inevitable step of bonding is in the mayor's, that falls in the mayor's court, but I've heard anecdotally that we're in a phenomenally favorable bonding environment right now for
Yep.
interest rates.
We've bonded.
We bonded,
Yeah,
Oh.
it's done.
and the rates are good.
Yep, the rates are good. The tax rate is set as well.
Right.
It's 1776, and that includes the debt reduction. So our tax rate would have gone down to 1520. Of course, values are going up, and then you add the, I don't know, 254 until instead of the 276. So our total tax, what people will start seeing in January, is $17.76 on their tax bill, inclusive of the debt reduction.
Love it. And you bonded the whole thing?
Bonded 50,
Yeah.
and in the 50 we rolled in the initial million, and also a smaller, we paid off a smaller short-term state house band.
Yeah. Nice. 'Cause
So we anticipate going out in 2 years to bid again, or I'm sorry, to bond again, to close out the band. It'd be nice if we didn't have to do that. You know, maybe it's such a little amount of money we'd do another band.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Because I had been hearing around that rates were very favorable.
Yeah, I think our aggregate rate was 2.6.
Nice.
We expected $2.86 as the tax for the debt exclusion amount, but it's aggregate, so it goes, you know, this year it happened to, with interest and the first hunk of bonds that were bought, it's $2.54. Next year it might be $2.80, but it's not going above $2.86.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everybody. Open the present early.
Fabulous.
So, all of this, so this was all done electronically, so these numbers that we're seeing here, so now what's the next part? Like, somebody's gonna check to make sure these all,
No, we've checked to make sure their paperwork is all online, that they have their DK update statement is current, and that they filed everything they need to file. With an approval by the committee tonight, we'll give them a notice to proceed tomorrow, and then we'll start putting together the contract. That's part of the specification that went out, and that may take a week or so to dot all the i's, across all the t's, and get that signed off. But with the notice to proceed, they can begin getting started on the project.
Any other questions about the bid results? I believe we need a vote to accept the bid from Fontaine and award the project to.
Well, do we want to go
Fontaine
through
Brothers.
and do we vote on the alternates separately? Or do we gone ahead and accepted them just as is because we have the funds?
Well, you don't have to. I would recommend you do a separate vote to,
Each
to
alternate.
whether you're gonna set all four, or the first three, or the first two. You do have to do them in order. So, I would do a separate vote to accept those, and then, or maybe it's a combination that you accept.
We're not in a scenario where the base bid would go to a different contractor if we do that. So it doesn't make a big difference.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
But
Yeah.
For the record. we
for
can
the
do that.
record.
They were under in every category, with the exception of one of the ad alternates. And
So we could, as John suggested, we could vote to award the base bid and then vote to award the ad alternates as a group in the order that we had originally proposed. Okay, what I just said, we need a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the bid by Fontaine Brothers for $81,137,000 for the construction, base bid construction of the school.
Second.
That motion didn't require any special language or anything, right? That's just
Nope.
good enough. Good. Is there a second?
There was.
Dale.
Dale.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. John?
Might as well keep going.
Keep
All
going.
right. I make a motion that we accept alternates 1 through 4 for a total ad alternate value of $3,694,000 by Fontaine Brothers.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. And just to clarify that, when John said all four, it's in the order that they're presented. Not that we're going to run out of money by the looks of it, but in the order they're presented. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Forgot to ask if anyone's opposed, but I saw everybody's hand go up, so thank you very much. Okay. Schedule.
So, based on the vote, we'll be reaching out, as Alan said, to provide a letter of intent. Fontaine will start getting their bonds in place. They'll start submitting some of their paperwork that's required to be submitted right away, their intent of what contractors are making up their goal for MBE-WB participation, so minority and women-owned business participation. So they'll start putting that together. We'll be getting a letter from the MSBA saying that you have 65 days to give us your schedule of values, or else you're going to lose your bond, your grant. But that's kind of a standard letter. We won't get our schedule of values in that time from the contractor, but we'll work towards that. So those are some of the things. So there's a lot of that paperwork stuff that Alan said, getting the contracts squared away, but big picture is looking at the overall construction schedule. Once the contractor comes on board, we'll try and get some detail that we can provide to you. But essentially, the big milestones are really getting into the ground as quickly as possible, and then getting the middle school work done. And so we have a substantial completion for the middle school targeted for late fall 2021 for a move-in over the Christmas break. And then the elementary school for completion in the spring for a move-in over the summer, so have the full school occupied for the fall of 2022. There'll be some closeout work they'll have to be getting done. I'm sure there'll be some site work that, plantings and stuff like that you need to hit planting seasons. But big picture, that's our schedule. I think the contractor, if they can get into the ground to get some things moving, but probably won't see any activity on site for the most part. You'll see maybe some fencing and some erosion controls, but there'll be a lot of paperwork behind the scenes, a lot of submittals that'll be going in for approval and things getting ordered. But within, I don't know, I don't even want to say, but within a short period of time, you'll see them mobilizing on site. The construction dealer is starting to see some site work, excavators and dozers and that sort of thing out there.
One question that I have around that, so at some point they're also going to take over one of the lanes going down into White Brook. Do we have a timeline of when that's going to happen? Because it's going to be important to communicate that to parents and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's something we'll probably talk about in our kickoff meeting, but I assume right away. So really, once they start, maybe over the Christmas break, that would take place, and then in January, when the students come back, there would be only one lane for access to and from. But that's a good point. We should clarify that early. Make sure that.
I'm assuming it'll be clearly marked, but you're right, it could be a bit of a shock.
Oh yeah, there'd be a gate, there would be some signage,
Yeah.
construction entrance only. Yeah, it's important on an occupied campus to really separate the work zones from the student zones, and Fontaine is good at doing that. We've worked with them in the past, as you have, and we'll take care of that.
We'll just also have to, think about it. One of the key things there too is the sidewalks on that side. So there's going to be no sidewalk going down to White Brook anymore. So there's just lots of those kind of details that we're going to have to look at and make sure we're communicating out to parents. Because, right now people aren't using that sidewalk so much, but it certainly, come springtime, come next few years, we're going to have to figure out how we're doing that, how kids are getting down that hill.
But good point, Maren, about communicating with the parents as much as we can. I'm assuming that Fontaine or you guys will stay in close communication with the superintendent and/or the principal, however you want that line of communication to go. Allison, to make sure that folks are aware. Something's going to be happening next Monday. We want you to be aware of what's happening. So I'm sure it'll be a pretty open line of communication.
Yeah, we'll try and give more than just next Monday. You kind of notice. But that's an ongoing, and it really depends on, we have this basic bar schedule, but the contractor's going to have a million lines of different activities. And so anything that has any kind of an impact to the school or any kind of change, we'll try and give you as much notice as we can. And we do have weekly meetings with the contractor, so if things change or something shifts, we can have constant communication to update the students, the staff, and that can trickle down to the parents and students.
Yeah, ironically, in spite of all the snow, the ground's really not frozen that much, because I know just because the snow blower is picking up my lawn and tearing it up here and there, so.
You're supposed to do the dark stuff.
I know. You gotta make a path for your own man,
How's that going to affect the parking, and you're taking away one lane? We have a parking lot on that side already that's probably half full. Are they going to take over that whole parking lot?
We left some of that parking lot for the school.
Are they going to adjust entrances or something? Because so
Yeah, there's a phasing plan. If people need to, I can go over it with you guys. It kind of addresses the sidewalk issue and how the parking and everything is divvied up, where gates are, things like that. So
It'd be helpful to review that,
Yeah.
now that it's real.
Right.
Does it make any sense to use access to Treehouse?
Treehouse is tough. To get vehicle for parent drop-offs, I don't know. That would be between the school district and the city and things, but
Just knowing that that's another lane going out to Park Street.
right.
That's a good point, it's needed. I see the groundbreaking on there, Tim. Was that planned to be, or is it up to the city maybe, if that was going to be something formal? Or we talked about making something more formal in the spring.
Yeah, it's really up to you on how you want to do it. the MSBA likes to attend. So usually you'll get maybe like a Jack McCarthy or somebody, a higher up level person there, so they like some time. But whether you want to have a more formal and get the kids involved somehow, or some sort of program, or some towns just quick and dirty, they just want a couple pictures and move on. So it's really up to you on how you want to do it.
I'll leave it up to the committee, but I personally would like to make it the biggest splash we could make.
And we had talked about spring rather
Yeah, we talked
than
about
at the
spring
beginning of
and
the
getting kids
project.
involved.
Yeah, we've done it with the steel halfway up, and, so it wasn't at the beginning of the project at all. It was when it was warm enough to have the kids outside to be able to do something with, something to show in the background, as opposed to a little pile of dirt in front of some people with some shovels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of the committee? December or March, April,
Spring.
I like the spring.
spring? What would it look like, March, April? Any guesstimates? Steel?
No, you won't have steel at that point.
It'll still be in the ground.
You'll have a lot of piles of dirt.
And some shovels.
Yeah.
It'll be good to shovel the sticky
They'll be doing
shovel.
some site utilities, drainage, of underground type.
Okay, that sounds good.
Just don't take pictures of the football field all torn up.
Nobody will know where it is, Shannon, I think. We won't put it in context, we'll have a close-up.
The lights
Close-up
will be down by then.
Yeah, they'll only take the lights
And
out.
Yeah, the goalposts.
The goalposts will be, yeah, we have a goalpost right in the picture to frame the picture, right?
It's not.
And do you folks, or who takes care of orchestrating that with MSBA on a date? You do, we'll take care of all that. Okay, spring it is.
And I'm assuming that we're gonna start getting some of the workers quarried and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, the contractor will really shepherd that process, and will coordinate with you on exactly what works for you and the logistics of it. But they'll track all their subs, get all their information, we'll submit it to you, and however we want to do that, whether it's individual companies coming in or sending things in, as long as they're notarized that that's all right for you to then do your review, and then if those people are approved, then having a list of who's been approved, and then some sort of identification, whether it's a sticker on the helmet or some other easy way to identify it's that guy number 25 versus, the guy with the red jacket, something that's obvious and can inform the staff that that's what that sticker represents, and if you have any issues, that's how you can identify that person. Do you have a specific form, or that's,
Yeah, we do.
okay, yeah, then that's something that, again, we have this pre-construction meeting, kind of a kickoff meet and greet with the contractor, and we kind of go through a whole bunch of these kind of upfront items.
When would you anticipate that meeting taking place? Before Christmas?
Yeah.
Which is like 3 weeks away at this point.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow?
Yeah, it's December.
Okay.
Yep, let us know.
Anything else on the schedule, Tim?
No, really, that's about it. And as we're going forward, really the schedule that we'll be providing is really kind of what's kind of coming up for the next few weeks, activity-wise, from the contractor's perspective. Really what's been happening over the course of the project. So really won't be having this format anymore. Maybe just that major milestone to kind of remind everybody where we are in the overall process.
Good, thanks. Bert, is that you, design team?
That's me, the team.
I knew that.
So, well, we've been putting all the stuff in, getting it out to bid, and having the contractors price it. Even though furnishings and the technology that's scheduled for the building doesn't happen for a few more years, we have been meeting with the district to go over what the package would include, kind of a design development phase for that portion of the project, so to speak. there's certain things that we want to make sure we're coordinated with the construction project. If you had a table that had built-in charging stations, we want to make sure there was a way to plug that in, things like that. So that's one reason it was important for us to start looking at this now. And the other reason is we wanted to kind of touch base again on where the estimated costs for these packages are going to fall in relation to the budget for the project. So we've been meeting with the FF&E consultants in the district and their staff probably since early fall, maybe late summer, but early fall anyways, and going through space by space to see what was needed in each different room type. And then we've met with Ashley here at the offices to go over technology needs as well. And so just today I got an update on the estimate for both the technology and the FF&E packages. So right now our total estimated need for the FF&E, for the technology, is $1,359,050. That breaks down to $1,346 per student. If you remember, we've had other discussions in the past that MSBA has a contribution to the FF&E and technology needs, and it's $1,200 per student for technology, $1,200 per student for the FF&E. So at $1,346 or $146 a student over what MSBA's allotment the district will need to come up with.
And that difference where it comes out of that contingency?
Yeah, Claudius can probably speak best on how the money kind of goes and gets worked around in the budget, but basically it's
Non-reimbursable funds.
Right.
You know, yeah, being that FF&E comes a little bit later, you'll be out of the ground, you'll know how you're doing contingency-wise. You know, these are early estimates, like Bert said, this are a couple of years away, so we'll refine those numbers and get better numbers as we get closer. But I'll let Bert finish before going into maybe strategies to things to think about over the next year or so.
Okay. All right. So based on those numbers, though, the overall number that we need to come up with for the technology is another $147,460, and that would get you everything that was on Ashley's list of technology equipment that is going to be needed for the district. FF&E, again, MSBA's contribution is $1,200 per student. The updated estimate is a need of $2,250,872.80. So that comes out to $2,228 a student, just in round numbers, which is a delta above MSBA's contribution. The district would need to find $1,037,875 to meet that. Now, when we were talking a year ago about this, we were projecting more than the $1,200 per student, but not quite not quite the 22. We were at like $1,900 a student. So we're already anticipating that you were going to need to come up with $700,000. It looks like, based on the latest information, you're at $1 million, just over $1 million for the total need.
Can I just make a comment about that? Because I don't want people that are watching on TV or anyone in this group to think that we thought of, everything but the kitchen sink that might be included in these rooms. I want to be clear that we really have nothing to take with us into the new school. We have no furniture. I mean, everything is old. We have not invested in furniture. And for example, there is no PE equipment that's going into the new school that we currently own right now, because all our mats they're old, they're past their shelf life. We haven't invested in anything in many years, infrastructure-wise, so we really have nothing to bring with us. So that's what this number really reflects. And I don't know, did I capture that correctly, Dale? Did you want to say anything?
So Bert, could you just, I'm sorry, once again, on the technology and the FF&E, what was the per student?
So
estimate?
technology per student is $1,346.
Yeah.
And FF&E per student is $2,228.59.
Because even though MSBA allows for 1,200, wasn't sort of the ballpark number always around 17 was more like a real number? 19, I'm sorry, 19. 19.
Yes.
So
So that's what I was saying, that we already projected that we were gonna have to contribute another $700,000
Right.
above MSBA's contribution. That gets you to the 19
Yeah.
that we had talked about before, yeah.
And we already had that basically earmarked in the budget. As part of our.
Well, earmarked is
We were
that,
using-
but there's money that can get transferred around, and like I said, Collier's is better.
I think we knew from the beginning that there was a shortfall there. That was part of the concern early on, that there was a shortfall, and we really didn't want to cut corners on FF&E technology if we could help it, so.
Right, I think even MSBA realizes that the $1,200 threshold is below
The,
market value.
Well, I think that it's kind of like with the, what they reimburse per square foot on the building. They're not saying you can build a building for $333 a square foot, that's just what they're willing to participate in. And same with furniture, they're not saying that you can outfit a school for $1,200 per student, they're just saying that's what they're willing to participate. So, that $2,400 between technology and furniture, that's just the way for accounting to come up with a number, and how you distribute that, and whether you spend more than $1,200 for furniture and less on technology or vice versa, they're not too concerned about that. They're just, it's an accounting thing, really.
Yeah, and I understand that, Tim. The problem is, as time goes on, they get further and further away from reality. And I understand what you're saying, it's just a number that they can plug in so that they can do their budgets. But
Oh,
if
yeah.
it's- But if it gets, time goes on, that number doesn't change, like inflation and everything else, you get away from
They
reality.
do change that budget, but you've already locked into an agreement with them, so that
Right,
number
right.
won't change as
It
far as
won't
the
change for us,
district's.
I totally agree. I'm thinking about broader future school, 10 years from now, if that number's still 1,200, it's not gonna be realistic.
Quite,
Yeah,
quite
absolutely.
early on, Bert and I went to a furniture forum that MSBA sponsored, and they suggested that the number is somewhere around 60% of what you actually need, the 1,200, so.
Hmm.
And across all of the projects they do in the state, that's
Which would
what they
mean that
find.
$2,200 is probably the accurate number that
Yeah, I
you
think,
want
yeah,
for each category.
that's why I've been so nervous about it.
Yeah, I don't think that the number is necessarily out of line.
Right.
If you go through with a fine-tooth comb and look at the estimate, there are some things that may or may not remain in the list, but for the most part, as Dr. said, there's all needs,
Right. I don't doubt that.
And we were very careful with staff. The other point that I would make is when we sat down with them, we discussed the concept of this stuff being bonded for 20 years. So you don't want to be buying things with that budget that aren't going to last at least 20 years. So people understood that in putting their list together and considered other kinds of items for their classroom as needing to go to the operating budget.
We knew.
As supplies.
If you go back to the high school project, we knew technology was held together with Band-Aids and paper clips. We knew the only way we were going to overhaul that was a new project to build a new school. And that's typically where you get your technology, state-of-the-art, if you will, in the entire building is going to be a new building. It's not going to come classroom by classroom.
Right.
Can't afford it.
But you have two sources right now to augment those budgets. Number one, you have bid savings that you can use to augment that. Number two, you have an owner's contingency of roughly $1.3 million that also plays into that. I'd like to hold the construction contingency for construction itself. So the funds are there.
Right.
As long as there's something that doesn't, come before that requires us to use that.
And given where we are with the process, that, we're a year away from really refining this, there's really no reason to think about not moving forward with those numbers now, I would imagine. But I'm asking, is that right?
No, I think that in the future, when we get around to, when we actually have to buy that equipment or buy that furniture, that's when we really should take a look at it if.
With a finer.
With a
eye.
finer set of eyes. Right, and technology does come down in cost, where furniture is tending to go up in cost.
Right.
So it typically balances itself out.
Right.
The longer you wait for the technology, new technology is gonna come in.
Exactly.
Right, but it's gonna be cheaper too.
If there's increase in the construction costs, does that change the MSBA's amount they put in?
Now, you're locked into an agreement with them, and construct, and you have a hard bid from a general contractor that they have to honor that bid to do the job for that amount of money. Where they, construction contingency of $2.25 million right now is if there's something that is not maybe picked up between the disciplines, say the engineering and the structural, and there's an interference, and they have to do something that they didn't see in the documents, they might come in with a legitimate change order for that and request funds for that. But being that it's a brand new building, we're not opening up any walls and finding out any unexpected things. We're hoping we don't see that in the site. We don't expect that. Yeah, we think that's an adequate construction contingency.
Good. Was that it for?
Yeah, I think that the next step for this is it's going to kind of go to the side now that we've kind of coordinated with the construction project and we've kind of established what the numbers we think are going to, we're at least ballpark to what we think those numbers are going to be coming in at in a year. So the next step really is for the FF&E side is next fall, now that we know generically that a classroom needs 26 student desks and 26 chairs and no wobble stools. Our consultant will start bringing in samples of what this stuff actually is so that we can actually pick the ones that the district wants to use. But that's still a year out too.
Yeah.
And then we'll start putting together, documents to procure those items, so that they're arriving in time.
Okay, thanks, guys. Next is a discussion on insurance. Who's not here?
Insurance? I mean, that's the city, we insure.
Pardon?
We insure.
No, I
See.
thought there was someone coming.
Jane had someone coming.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
What's that guy's name? Pat?
Pat,
Yeah.
someone was gonna come to talk
That's
about
right, I
it.
forgot about that.
It wasn't
You're gonna
brought.
insure
I mean, I
it?
talked to Pat about it.
I would love to.
Pardon?
Can't.
I talked to Pat about it, the day he said he'd be here.
If I only knew somebody.
Like, what were the questions? So like, what was the?
Well, I guess this person had
Jane
contact.
Personnel said that he wanted to come, and you can augment this, but he wanted to come and just begin talking to us about the insurance we'll need on the new building during the construction phase, during all the different phases along the way.
And I was open to having him here. At the end of the day, that's really in the city's purview, not this committee.
I agree, but
I'm not sure.
Jane told me I had
But you
to-
raise a point though, Allison. I'm not sure about insurance along the way. Liability, whatever. What about insurance along the way?
Well, that would fall on the general contractor. wouldn't it?
Well, usually there's a builder's risk
Risk.
policy. We'd have to take a look if it were called for it in the documents for the general contractor to carry it. Typically, you would. Sometimes the district will carry it because you have a better rate. You can get a better rate than the contractor can for the insurance. Usually the contractor carries it.
Yeah.
But okay. All right. So that's.
We do have in our front end in the specifications, and we do have a whole listing of what kind of liability limits they're
Okay.
supposed to be carrying and all sorts of things. If we needed to modify those, we could talk to them
Not the
about
insurance
that.
guys listening to this.
There's a whole section on it.
Hypothetically, right?
But I guess where I was coming
Not hypothetical, realistically.
Right over.
with that in my conversations with Allison, at the end of the day, when the building is done and we need to insure the new building, that's
That's a whole nother
That's the
question.
city's
Not
job.
me, yeah.
But going back to the builder's risk, like who's paying for that? That's the question. Like, is the contractor paying for that? Or is the city now gonna have to pay for a builder's risk for a $90 million building? Well, not that much, but you get it. That's a
We would have
question.
to verify that.
So Tim mentioned that it is in the front end.
Okay.
There are some insurance limits that we issued in the front end.
Okay.
If they're talking to someone about if the city's talking with their person about what the needs need to be, that can certainly be shared so that they can take a look and verify the
Okay.
amounts and everything. So right now, the general contractor's base bid price there, including the alternates, I guess, is carrying something for insurance premiums
Okay.
throughout the project.
All right.
I don't remember exactly what the limits were or exactly what the categories were, but
Okay.
but there's something there, so something's been covered in the bid by the contractor, so.
Okay.
Who comes up with the I'm sorry, some insurance questions.
That's why you're here.
So
To
who
realize.
comes up with the specifications for the contractors? Is that something that MSBA says, or is that something that the city says, you guys are responsible? These are the requirements that the city has, like whenever we hire somebody to, well, I shouldn't say we, but when the city hires somebody to do a project, they must have a sheet that says you need to carry, general liability, workers' comp, bonding, your umbrella, whatever, all that is. I'm assuming that the city and/or the MSBA, that's part of the project?
It's part of the project, it's a city requirement, it's not an
Okay.
MSBA requirement. MSBA requires that you have it, but they're not
Okay,
dictating.
but they don't
They're
set
not
the
dictating
limits.
the limits.
Okay, all right. So I'll talk later to make sure, I just want to make sure it's all there where it's supposed to be.
The school committee tonight? No, okay. Just so you know, Pat touched that clock and it's magically working now.
Just saying.
It's got the magic
I got
touch.
10 more on
planning tonight.
Amazon coming.
Okay, so, that's that. Other business?
I have a question from somebody who is interested in doing a fundraiser, and it had to do with bricks. And I think there'll be a lot of bricks involved in the school somewhere, shape, or form. So I was asked to ask if there was a group that wanted to do something either on a playground or something like that, or somewhere in the building, is that something that can be done? And I'm asking now before,
What do you mean something, they want to do something? What do you?
So,
This is something.
Like buy a brick.
Buy a brick, put your name on.
buy a brick, put a
Put a
kid's
paving
name on it,
as a
paver, I'm thinking pavers,
Think of
something along
Fenway Park, think of that.
like, yeah.
Okay, so the reason I ask is that if anything that you're fundraising to offset the cost of the project, the MSBA will then reduce their grant even more, so
Okay.
that's why I ask.
All right.
If it's something like that, I'm sure that there's things that we could do during, whatever you decide to do. Sometimes we've done giving trees or something
Yeah.
like that in a lobby,
Yeah.
or if you had the pavers that we're gonna use outside.
To
or
be,
the
well,
stamp-
to be clear, it would be nothing, it would have nothing to do with, it's the Easthampton, I'm gonna just say it, just be easier. The Easthampton Learning Foundation is looking for ways to make fundraisers. The Easthampton Learning Foundation does a lot of things, Tom, you can clarify what they do. But one of the things that one of them thought about was, as the school is being built, maybe it'd be neat to have, Pat, Joe, and Katie, Jen, Brick as part of the new program, and it would fundraise for help
For the nonprofit.
for the nonprofit, which is,
So let's just say you were gonna have a bunch of pavers at one of the entrances, and somebody said, if you wanna put your name for posterity on a paver, you can pay $50 to do it, but at the end of the day, that $50 goes to the nonprofit. Doesn't benefit the school, other than the school, doesn't benefit the school at all.
no.
You were gonna put the pavers in anyway, I guess there's a cost to engraving them.
I would imagine there's,
Yeah, so whatever the net proceeds are goes
Right,
to the
goes to the-
paver.
Well, we have a lot of bricks on the building. We don't have any pavers on the plazas.
Okay.
It's all concrete,
okay, all right,
so.
so, all
What
right.
about the
But that
playgrounds?
doesn't mean that you can't come up
Come up with
with
something,
something similar
something.
somewhere in the project.
So-
Right.
The only other thing I would throw out, though, to Allison is, and/or the mayor, we probably have to be careful about how do you go about making it exclusive to
I
this
get that,
particular
yeah.
nonprofit.
Right, I get that.
Other nonprofits come forward and say, hey, what about us? What
Right.
about us? But Elf had the idea. so-
Yeah, 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 so, all right, just throwing it out there and keep it in mind.
And I guess to follow through on that, though, Elf, if you want to go full circle with it, does benefit the schools.
Yes,
Yes,
it's a
definitely.
foundation for the schools.
That could potentially be the justification for singling out. It's not like, they're going out and doing whatever with the money. The money's coming right back to the students.
Right.
Yeah, no, we
They're
need to keep programs.
nonprofits.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say they're an independent entity, right?
Yes, they are. They're a nonprofit.
So if you wake up in the middle of the night, Bert or Tim, and think about something we could do with names, something we could do with names as a fundraiser. would be great.
Put on the maintenance.
I know,
I think the fact that we reached out on Main Street,
the
started the
elementary school.
conversation.
Kind of
Yeah, the only-
the athletic field, and there's a
Yeah,
paper
tile.
pen.
The only other quick thing I had is I did reach out just before Thanksgiving to
Football
really,
time.
to talk about football. So I did send out a quick email to really kind of regroup everybody to kind of get them moving with that. And I don't mean anybody, well, I mean a couple of you here.
Yeah.
But, just as to what's going to happen with them during this construction of the. So I just, it's in the works.
And along those lines, could we revisit the timeline for when the field is not, it's not going to be available for the 2020 season?
Doesn't matter anyway because the season.
This
Yeah,
season.
they're
It
done.
was this season that we were worried about this season, so the season's over, yeah.
So it's done, it's off limits
They
for
had
the
their
next 2
banquets
years.
It's off limits now.
Correct.
Right, oh, that's right, it was this season.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, there's.
We got it in October or not, or.
And
Okay.
Thanksgiving's coming gone, so they don't
Yep.
worry about it.
Okay, perfect.
So, it's in the work.
Anything else? Next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 21st.
So I didn't have that in my calendar. Is that, did we just add that?
No, it was there.
They just, that just kind of plugged in there as a
So are we kind of
placeholder.
moving to, is there any regularity as to when we meet?
That was the plan. There is a greater, bigger plan. And I think, is that the third?
That's the 3rd.
Yeah, so I don't know if that works for people, but doing the,
What's our schedule?
Well-
Not on that?
The only reason we haven't had regularity to date, Allison, is
No, I
that
know.
we haven't, need,
Yeah.
yeah, on a need-to-meet basis, sort of. So I don't, I've been reluctant to just say we're going to meet the 3rd Tuesday of the month, because
Yeah.
if there's no reason to meet, then we end up telling everybody, hey, you know that meeting we had scheduled, we don't need to do it. I would imagine the meetings are going to become more necessary as we go forward here with construction.
I think we should plan on a monthly meeting, if nothing other than just to provide an update of what's going on, the activity. People will be driving by it and curious, so just some sort of outlet to let people understand what's happening, and then just to provide updates on how we stand financially on the project, what's happening, are there any change orders, are there things that, coordination that we need to do with the district, those types of things.
I know that quick discussion, that little discussion we had about the traffic and the walkway and all that stuff. I know as one committee member, I'd really like to kind of be in the loop as to what's happening with that and when the notices and everything go out, only because, like, people will ask all of us what the heck's going on there. So
Right.
More Pat than anybody else.
More Pat than
probably will text me.
field
Not
those
any of
questions.
you, actually, they'll just call me. So, and you.
And the third Tuesday is off of a school committee night?
Yes.
We haven't
It
made our
is,
schedule.
In
what I was, looking at the quick next 4 months though, the third Tuesday is in winter break and spring break in February and April though. So if you're looking for consistency, those 2 Tuesdays probably won't work.
Okay.
So,
Well, there's not gonna be a whole lot going on, honestly, in the next couple of months.
Right.
I mean,
So if
even
we
a
had
school
to-
committee meeting night works as long as we,
Make it short.
get it done by 6, because school committee starts at 6.
I have a feeling based on what Tim said, and he can always forewarn us, but if these are going to be updates on what, since the last month, they're going to be fairly short meetings.
Yes.
Not going to be marathon sessions, so I think we'll be okay to be out by 6.
should we have it on a second or fourth Tuesday then? I guess it's part of that question.
Well, if you did that, then it would alleviate the running into a break.
I want to go back to something Tim
Yeah.
just said, though. Were you suggesting that we're not ready yet for regular meetings?
No, I would say let's get it on the calendar, let's do it.
Okay.
If for some reason there was no need to do it, then we can always cancel, but,
Easier to cancel the
Yeah.
schedule, so.
Yeah.
You want to shoot, Curtis?
Just a comment. Does the building committee approve the payment requisitions? Does it get presented and vetted here and then submitted to the city first?
we haven't been doing.
We haven't
this.
been doing that, they've been going straight to the city.
I just want to make sure because
Hasn't been the
that's
pattern.
time sensitive with
Yeah, that
respect to
would be
when they
safe.
submit end of the month, so.
We can't build by committee.
Yeah, I think,
Sometimes it
Some-
happens.
Many committees do that, but it does drag down the process.
Yeah.
And that's my question.
And
Yeah,
most of those are
if we have
towns,
bills, we're submitting
rather
every
than
week.
cities.
I said, if we have bills to pay, we're putting that into the system every week.
Yeah, typically,
The contractor will come in with monthly requisitions.
Yeah.
Which then have to be vetted, they're usually pencil copied in advance, submitted to someone that says, yes, these are appropriate numbers, then somebody from the city has to act on those
Right,
invoices.
we have our own procurement officer now.
So you won't,
And he's been,
you won't need the building committee to approve.
Does anyone on the committee want to approve all the bills?
no.
We have one for Kale and Beneath right now.
No,
but we will provide updates on where we stand against the budget as
Yeah. Right.
bills are getting paid.
Exactly.
Right.
Sort of the view from 30,000 feet, if you will.
So we're,
How about
the
the,
meetings get
some
longer, or
committees,
change order proposals, if we're presenting things like that.
that's
to the
going
committee.
right to
Right.
Those
procurement,
typically
that
generate
makes it
discussion,
easier.
so.
right,
Right.
Yes. We have a
And
new
if there's
treasurer.
gonna be a change order, can we get advance notice of those?
Have you met?
so what is the school committee meetings, is it the
Second and
second and
fourth.
fourth?
Second and fourth. Second and fourth Tuesdays.
So we should try to stay off of it, just to Bert's point, there might be times when significant change orders, what have you, are gonna generate more discussion, take us more than an hour, maybe not. Why don't we go, how's the fourth Tuesday?
Well,
Tuesdays.
Right,
have
so
a
the
meeting,
fourth
but-
Tuesday is a meeting night, so that's fine.
It'll be a meeting night, but
Yeah.
we should be out by 6. If we're gonna run
Yeah.
longer, we'll do
I mean, do we
something.
want to start
works.
these meetings at 4:45, just to be safe, or does that not work?
I think,
That pushes it
Okay.
to get me
Yeah,
here.
stick with 5.
Yeah, I think it's back to, and if we have something that we know is kind of an issue that's gonna generate longer discussion.
The
You'll
energy
know.
committee meets on the fourth
So.
Tuesday, but we could probably change that,
What time do they meet?
5 to 6. But if I'm the only one, I can't remember
So we,
So
so
we're-
January,
January we keep.
Well, no,
we're
the
keeping the
20
21st, or are we moving to
The
the
21st is the third Tuesday. So if you
Right, are
move,
we keeping the January and then starting this for February on?
pleasure of the committee.
Let's just start. Well, I was gonna say, let's just start
Pick a week.
Start with the 4th,
Start with
the new
Stay
year.
there, and we're good.
28th.
28th.
Okay, so it'll be this one.
January 28th, and for 2020, we're planning on the 4th Tuesday of every month. Barbara will love that.
That makes life easier.
I understand for every meeting, there's folks that can or can't make it, but the key is as long as we have a quorum.
Right.
We need 9 of us, 8 of us here for a quorum. But you're all important to me, so make sure you're on.
You know, one thing, Bert brought up change orders, is we are gonna have change orders unfortunately on the project. Sometimes we're going to need to expedite change orders, and they probably wouldn't be able to wait for a building committee meeting. So oftentimes what we do is we have a subcommittee or some sort of procedure for approval, whether there's a graduated dollar limit. Often change orders of significant dollar amounts don't happen very quickly and aren't rush type things. We usually have time to vet those, and usually we can bring those to a building committee, but sometimes there's lesser dollar value changes that need to be responded to quickly. And so what we've done is had a subcommittee, maybe the chair and the superintendent, or 3 or 4 people that we could go to and get approval with a maximum dollar value, just to keep things moving.
I do recall, Tim, when with the high school project, not that I'm suggesting this, but there were weekly sort of construction meetings, if you want to.
Well, we'll have those.
Right, but if,
Do you have any representation from the committee at those?
You can,
Superintendent sometimes is there, or somebody from the committee.
but if the group you just mentioned, Tim,
Facilities.
attended those meetings, then that could,
we don't like to do that kind of business in front of the contractor.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You know, you lose your
Bargaining power.
Yeah.
So a subcommittee.
Only when needed. It can be, hey, I can email it out to whoever these designated people are and say, look, we have this they hit some ledge, we need to O-ram it out, and it's gonna cost us, 2 days worth of time, and, not to exceed $10,000 or something. Can I get your approval? And then you say, yeah, go, and then we're not holding up the contractor.
It definitely has to be a small number, I believe, Mayor, right? Because we gotta be careful about open meeting. It can't go to the whole committee for approval.
Yeah,
So if it's 3 people, that's okay, because it's not a quorum. It just can't hit that quorum number. Otherwise, we're tripping over violation of open meeting law.
Yeah.
But
So do we have to establish, like you said, do we have to establish at some point to what that threshold is and who are those people on that thing? We have to
right,
establish that.
What we typically do is the superintendent usually has that authority up to, say, in this case, like $20,000, to say, it makes sense to me, I'm signing off on it, we'll present it to the next school building committee, that we did this. And we can have just the superintendent, or we can have superintendent plus.
if she comes in the spring with a brand new BMW.
There'll be 3 of them.
She's a Lexus girl.
But you might also have different people you want at different meetings, depending on what the problem comes across.
No, it's gonna be, we're
It's
gonna
finances.
vet the problem. It just needs to be somebody from the city having authority to say, yes, we're gonna sign off.
And I assume you guys are gonna come back with the reasonableness of this request. You guys are gonna
Oh,
come
yeah.
back and say,
Yeah,
you're
we'll-
not gonna bring something to the
No.
superintendent that is.
We'll vet
Right, right.
so
We're
this is
gonna
just a
vet it.
money amount, it's not a change order? Or does
It would turn into
a change order.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't want to.
So you don't need anybody with any
3 weeks to
technical
do that.
expertise necessarily, because you all are gonna provide that.
That's
We're
right.
here for that.
That's right.
You don't want to.
It's really a financial,
It's 5,000, go.
yeah, it's really a financial
And the fact that on the
schedule.
area,
It's not like
I mean,
we
you know,
hit
someone
ledge
that
and it's
you
another
don't have to call in.
$50,000.
And again, the larger issues, we'll have time to bring to a building committee, because it's gonna take more time to vet and go through and back and forth, we'll mark up a proposal to the contractor and say, well, we really would question this, we think this is too high, or go back and forth on something. So we'll have time to bring it to you. Sometimes we'll bring things to you, they're saying, look, we're still in negotiations with a contractor, here's his first price, we think this is high, but we're gonna work with him a little bit. We can't wait till next month, so we wanna get approval of a not to exceed this dollar value, so we can keep things moving. So there's a lot of that type of thing, but on those quick things where we really need an answer, and we can't wait until the next building committee meeting, we do need some sort of mechanism to do that. Now, we don't have to vote on it tonight, but it is something that we will need to get in place.
In your experience, what is that number?
20,000.
20,000?
What we've been doing on most projects lately.
Okay. Okay with that?
Yeah, 20,
For the superintendent to make that
yeah,
decision?
I would have said 25, but sure.
Okay.
I mean, it just goes in line with
25.
our signatures
25.
Yeah.
downstairs. So 10, 25, 50, 75.
And then the only obligation you would have, Allison, is to report those back to the full committee.
Well, we would do that as
Right.
part of the presentation.
Want to make a motion? Might as well get it done tonight.
Is it 20 or 25?
20, we're shooting for 25.
25.
This end of the table is going for 25
Okay.
with Nicole.
This end of the table.
30,
needs
30,
to be
you might-
taking notes.
The last time I bid, I ended up with a winter coat, so I'm not. Not too bad. It's a nice coat, but no one's getting Christmas presents.
So, I'm making a motion that the superintendent will be our designee to approve change orders.
Time-sensitive change.
Time-sensitive change orders not to exceed $25,000 in cost.
I'll second.
So a motion made and seconded to allow the superintendent to approve change orders not to exceed 25,000.
Time sensitive.
Time sensitive. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. I know we didn't need that tonight, but I'd love to get
No,
those
that's
off the table, get it done. Anything else under other business? Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. So moved by Dave, We don't have a second, we'll be here all night. John seconded. All in favor of adjourning? Thank you.
Oh, wait, I did have one, like realistically.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's not a big deal, but so we have this number, the mayor, I believe you're putting out a press release?
Yeah, I was gonna, I
Yes, I
have
just remembered as I was sitting here with
Right here.
your quote.
Okay.
email,
I just wrote myself.
Allison.
Okay.
It's going out tomorrow morning.
All right, I'll send you
Do you wanna
something.
read?
I just wanted to know when it was going out, I don't wanna.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we offer a couple corrections to that?
Yeah, yeah.
First of all, on Caleb and Monique, I like their full name is rather than CBA.
Okay.
And on
I
ours,
hate Maple School Street project.
That's what it is though.
it is. It is what
But
it's what
then everyone
MSBA.
thinks it's related to Maple School.
It is. That was
So
one of
we're
the-
adjourned,
I
right?
want this picked up by Boston and I'm not gonna piss off the
Dude,
treasurer.
guys,
Right.
Bert, do you have a business?
It doesn't have to be named
I love it.
school afterwards.
I know, look, I.
We get to vote on that later.
Or do you need it?
No, no.